Hey guys, it's Barb with Inspire Me 360, and this morning I want to talk about the art of detachment. And when I'm talking about detachment, I mean, I'm not talking about this energy of coldness or, a lack of emotion, but detachment in the sense, and you might hear my dog, she's got a squeaky toy in the back, but detachment in the sense of removing a situation or stepping back from a particular situation as a form of self-love. And I try to think of absolutely everything that I encounter, and it is good practice in terms of creating this balanced equilibrium in your own mental state, to think of everything in terms of energy. And it doesn't matter if it's a person, a place, a thing, a situation. If that element is depleting your energy or making you stressed or confused in any way, energetically, it is draining you. And so it's really important for us to, as we are traveling along this journey to self-actualization, self-understanding, to really start to pay attention to those energetic tethers and also our own energy levels. So how we are affected by circumstances and people and different events in our lives. And that's how we can really decide whether to detach from something or whether to keep it, in our immediate sphere of influence. So specifically, why is this important? Well, it's pretty evident, it's pretty obvious. We all want to create that dream life, that life where we feel energized and invigorated and passionate about each and every moment of our lives. And the way that we move towards this state is by being very discerning as to what type of energies we allow into our surroundings. Okay, so again, if there are certain individuals in your life that, and I mean, these can be family, these can be, lifelong friends as well. Again, like I said, my dog has a squeaky toy. So essentially, when you're around these individuals, you feel tired, exhausted, obligated. I think obligation is one of the most almost annoying tethers, in the sense that, and I don't want to say annoying, but if you are feeling guilt, if you're feeling obligated in a way that is very draining to you and is in the back of your mind, that's an energetic tether. And a lot of times it can be our family members that impose this sort of energetic heaviness over us because of their expectations. And so as a counterbalance to that, you can certainly set up your own boundaries and expectations. You can try to have a dialogue with those individuals in your life and set those boundaries. But oftentimes, again, when it is, really close friends and family, they, due to that lineage of history that you've had with them, oftentimes they don't want to move into a different a balance in terms of the relationship. Essentially, they like that control over you, or they like to be able to influence you in a way that you are obligated to them. And so this is where that art of detachment comes in, being able to compartmentalize your own state of emotions and your own internal obligations. This is something that I've gotten better and better at as the years have gone by, is not feeling this sense of guilt or self-obligation, and really being able to pay attention to how my interactions affect my energy, my mood, my stability. And anytime I'm interacting with anything that is affecting my mood, my output, my creativity negatively, I subtly detach from that as a form of self-love and self-preservation. So what feels right for you is right for you. If it feels good, if it feels peaceful, that is your indicator that you are moving towards understanding how to balance your own energy field and to do it in an empowered way. So again, the detachment doesn't have to be cold. It doesn't have to be this iron gate that comes down with, this blanketed no contact type of detachment. Detachment can also simply mean loving distance. So you can hold a very loving, warm, unconditional energy for individuals in your life by, and still yet have great energetic boundaries. And so again, that moves back into this discussion of the gentle art of detachment. And in that discernment, so as we move into this type of calibrated isolation, something that we are doing intentionally, we're not going into a depressive state, we're essentially learning about our own energy field. And when we do this sort of isolating type activity, we can really pinpoint who in our surroundings boosts our energy up when we start to reintegrate, and who is draining to our energy field. And it's not that those that drain you need to be, again, completely locked out of your life. It's that you need to be able to monitor the level of interaction so that you can be as effective as possible in creating that life that you've always, desired. So I'm not going to make this video super long. I've got to get to work, but it was just something that I have really been working on in the past months and years. The past couple of years is really understanding who and what belong in my inner circle, in my inner energy circle, and who and what are not necessarily there, and I want to say there for the right reasons, but might be in a sense spiritually bypassing their own work by attaching to my own energy, or attaching to your energy because you've done the work. And some of the hallmark signs of this, I'm just going to quickly, give you some comparisons that I've found. If individuals are complaining a lot about their life circumstances, if that complaining leads to this, obligation or guilt that you are to help them, again, that energetic tether pulling you back into their energy field and them not learning to do their own work. These are big indicators of individuals that, again, they're not focusing. Like I said, there's going to be some squeaky toy action. I can't even take that thing away from her. But individuals that aren't ready to focus on their own work, and therefore they're allowing you to do that work for them, or pressuring you to do that work for them. Also, individuals that are trying to boost their ego. So these would be, if they're in that state of talking over you, or endlessly talking about all of their own successes and what's going on, but never energetically allowing you a moment to speak, or really having any desire to know what's going on in your life. This can be a really draining energy interaction as well, because again, they are feeding their ego with your attention, your ability to be a good listener, and your positive energy. Because again, people who need that ego boost will gravitate to very positive people, because again, they like the energy and the excitement and that positive glow that they get from being in your presence. But if they're not exchanging equally with you, it will drain your energy. So those are two sort of key indicators that I have noticed in terms of balancing my own energy and balancing that equilibrium of who I spend my time with and who I let into that inner circle. And you'll find this is really great in terms of your own creativity, because again, you're guarding your energy and you're saving it in a self-loving way for you and for what you're meant to. Guys, it's Barb with Inspire Me 360, and what I want to talk about today is the art of putting yourself first and your own desires and happiness. I know that this seems a little bit counterintuitive because for probably most of our lifetimes, we've been taught that humility and, acts of service and all of these different things are the most important things that we should be using our time towards. And I'm not discounting that acts of service and humbleness and all of those things are not great aspects of the self. But it's so important, crucially, to your existence, to keeping a high energy in terms of your life force, to creating genuine, authentic happiness within your own self first. So essentially putting on your own oxygen mask before you help those around you. And especially women, I think we're taught from a very young age that it's not polite to put oneself first. And, we have to be the nurturers, the givers, the ones that take care of everyone else. But oftentimes it makes or it plants a seed of a certain bitterness within us because we are not putting our needs first. And it's a slippery slope. Men do this as well. But again, this is something that a lot of women, they martyr themselves for the happiness of their families, for the happiness of their children, those around them, and then they forget of this darker energy. It is really the power to put up boundaries about multiple things in our lives. Who we want in our aura, who we want next to us energetically, who's allowed to have access to our bodies, minds, thoughts, dreams, our spiritual journey. And really understanding that not everybody that is in your life, even if they're family, even if they're longtime friends, really should have access to those very sacred parts of yourself. If those individuals are not honoring you, and what I mean by honoring you is lifting you up, if their energy, their words, their actions are meant to cut you down or meant to make you question your value, that's a big indicator that they're probably not ideal for boosting your life force energy. Doesn't mean that you completely cut them out of your life. It just means that you are getting good at identifying the factors of who are your cheerleaders and who are your energy vampires. And it's not that an individual is going to be in that state for your entire life. It's that they could be in a lower vibrational state, not feeling really great about themselves. And so, in a sense, when they get around your high vibrational energy, they start to kind of chip away at it because they don't feel good within their own energy field. And this is part of discernment, and this is part of understanding the energetic resonance and frequencies of others in your life. Now, I'm not saying that you're always going to be high vibrational. There's going to be times when you're actually the one that is depleting others' energy. And how can you identify this? It's pretty simple. If you are in a state where you're complaining a lot, when you're in victimhood, when you are speaking negatively about others, when you just have that pessimistic outlook, and again, you're bringing that to other individuals, that is a really draining energy. Now, if you're in that state and you're alone with yourself, you're also, your own energy body is going to feel that lower vibrational energy. And essentially, it is your consciousness that is draining your spiritual energy. So you are draining yourself. And it's when we kind of slip into the dark night of the soul, when we really start to realize, when we're in that hermit stage, when we're isolating, that we understand so acutely how we affect, how the conscious mind affects those subtler layers of our soul body, of our energy body. And when we're in this silence, or when we're in the silence of ourself, essentially listening to the song of our own soul and the emanation of, wherever we're calibrating right now, is when we really learn to maneuver our own energy and adjust our own energy. Because again, this is what the journey is. We are here to learn about how we affect ourselves and how we affect others. And once we learn how to specifically raise our own vibration and do it quickly, again, to benefit ourselves, to move ourselves into that beautiful, happy life force, life-giving, creative energy, then we can also attune ourselves to be able to be this beacon of light for others. But it takes us traveling into the lower vibration of self, understanding those dark spaces within the self that allows us that context to see and become our own light. And then have that beautiful self-loving discernment to realize what is good for us, what fills our cup, and what is moving us toward those higher and higher expressions of consciousness. So really realizing that putting up boundaries, saying no, asking for what you need is part of this journey. And it's not selfish, it's not wrong. It is this beautiful state where you start to love yourself enough to ask for what you need from those around you. Good at this. We have to really work on alleviating the guilt, both internally, because again, guilt is a very low vibrational thought form, and externally. So any type of guilt that others are projecting onto us to make us stuck, or to cause our consciousness to be stuck in obligation towards them. Anytime somebody is making you feel like you are obligated, it's not high vibrational energy. And when we absorb that and start holding that guilty energy within ourselves, again, it's a very self-defeating energetic state. So you have to really rid yourself of guilt energy. It's not positive. There is nothing wrong with being happy. There is nothing wrong with feeling full. There's nothing wrong with residing in a high vibrational state of love. You're allowed to love life. You're allowed to love others. You're allowed to surround yourself with amazing people. And you're not required to always be digging a ditch and always be making these crazy sacrifices. Being sacrificial and residing in this mindset where, again, you are the martyr for the world. It's not a positive aspect of thinking. When we talk about truly being in divine service, the highest ratio or the highest calibration of being in divine service is being in this loving service. Well, where do you think love comes from? It comes from this spark of immense internal joy. And that internal joy is fed by the experience of happiness. So when we are truly happy, when we are serving ourselves, we can serve others. When we're in that state, we come to the table full. We come to the table being able to give because our cup is running over. So the giving is easy. The giving spills over naturally and it's effortless. This is the flow state. So remembering that one of the most important things that you can do on your journey is to figure out how to make yourself ridiculously happy. And once you're ridiculously happy and once everything is flowing amazingly well in your life, what you are giving to the world is just naturally going to be of service, of giving, of that beautiful, warm, amazing energy. It's a journey. I'm not telling you that this is going to be easy every step of the way. I know for myself, sometimes it's, 2 steps forward and 1 step back. And I've been doing a lot of back to basics and reminding myself of all of the things I've learned along the way. And that's the way that it goes. You're going to feel this energetic up leveling. And then sometimes in terms of context, we slide back a little bit into the lower vibrations so that we can go back, drill down, and rise again to a higher place. And that's the beauty of context. It is cyclical. It's, we're going to learn these lessons somewhat over and over again, but every time you learn the lesson, there's a little bit more that you glean from that. And just like when you read a book or watch a movie, over and over, you always kind of pick up a little, these little hidden gems that you didn't necessarily pick up on the first time. And that is the aspect of learning. So I'm going to wrap this video up, but hopefully it was a little bit inspiring, and hopefully it pushes you towards seeking out that beautiful, authentic, self-serving joy that is available to you in each and every moment. And I want to put a little caveat on this, making sure that this joy is coming from the self, that we're not attaching to others outside the self to essentially cultivate our joy, because this is a singular journey. The joy has to emanate. You have to be the light on your own. And then of course, you're going to be that lighthouse to draw in many more beautiful energies that align with you. The law of attraction, okay? But remember, you have to be able to be that self-generating light. You can't be getting that energy from somebody else. It is your journey to figure out how to create that energy within the self. What do I mean by this? It means that no relationship, no romance, no person, no job, no trip, nothing like that can create happiness for you. Yes, those are things that you can experience, but you actually have to do your own work. You actually have to learn how to create joy from within. If you are, sitting in a bus stop, how do you create that joy? Just sitting there watching the world go by. If you are laying in bed at night, how do you create that joy for yourself? Once you figure out the algorithm within your own blueprint of how to create this flow state, this joy from this internal place, it doesn't matter where you are or what you are experiencing, you can tap into this beautiful reservoir of divine, creative life force energy, and it is available to you in each and every moment. But again, this is something that you need to do for yourself. And what it does in terms of your interactions with others, when you have this very high vibrational energy that is available to you in each and every moment that you can tap into and cultivate from the self, it makes each and every interaction more beautiful with others, and it's not dependent on the outside world. Your happiness no longer depends on what others are doing. You are just innately happy. It also allows you to be free. It creates a lot of personal freedom, because if your happiness and your state of being is not dependent on the outside world, then you are within your own sovereignty. You're that sovereign being, that lighthouse, okay? And then that's really when you become that teacher and that inspiration for others. You need nothing from the external world, and you can give freely. So I'm going to wrap this particular video up, and we'll see you in the next. I want to talk about what seems to be a loss in both the masculine and especially the feminine perspective of the sacredness of our energy and the sacredness of our body. And so through this learning journey, it's so important for us to learn to correlate the body that we are in, the experiential body, our emotions, with energy. And when we start to understand that the blueprint, the template of what we are is so sacred on an energetic level, then we can start to see all aspects of self as extremely sacred. So why am I bringing this up? Why am I even talking about this? Well, especially in North America, but all over the world, there's been this transition into this hyperfixation of the body. If we look like, 100, 150 years ago, because there wasn't this same visual context or visual aspect to our lives, we tended to look outward, we could see the world around us, but we didn't have so much of a clear mirror as we do now through photographs, videos, social media. And this is all purposeful as well. Part of the journey of soul is to truly see the self, the three-dimensional self, and the return to the multi-dimensional self. Now, again, this hyperfixation on the body, on the external three-dimensional experience is really crucial and really important. So I don't want to label this negative or, what currently humanity is going through. I don't want, again, in any way to call it bad or evil or anything like that. It's experiential. Energy is learning about its dynamic nature and how to create balance. And so if we can look at the current state of most of the consciousness on planet Earth, it would tend to be a little bit unbalanced, or quite a lot unbalanced, because again, that focus is away from the sacredness of the body to the three-dimensional functionality of the body, the way the body looks, the way the body interacts with other bodies. And it's a little bit, it's innocent in a sense, because until we understand the dynamic, all actions are essentially a reaction or a primal actionary state. And this is, again, what we are learning. So as you go along in your spiritual journey, you'll start to realize that as entertaining as the body is, there's a certain emptiness when you are completely focused, or when your consciousness is completely focused on that one dynamic of the body. So what starts to happen is, especially with human sexuality, human relationships, when things are very, very superficially based, the human being, whether it be masculine or feminine, eventually learns through the multiplicity. So going over the experience many times and yielding no real depth of return. The soul essentially starts to realize that it doesn't matter how many times it over-identifies with the body, that there is an innate imbalance there. And what happens consciously is we start to search for more depth. Our consciousness craves a more complete and balanced energy exchange. And so we start to acclimate, we start to ask the higher questions about who we are, what is this energy body, what does it mean to hold that sacred space, or we start to see the body as the temple, as this sacred space that holds that higher dimensionality, that's not even a word, but that higher dimension of self within it. And we start to loosen the grip with the external factors. And essentially, when we start to disassociate with the body form, and this usually correlates as well to aging, because we hit a certain point where we realize that essentially this body is temporal. And that's really when we start asking those deep questions about who we are. What is our purpose? Is there something beyond this lifetime, beyond the body? And we start to remember our own sacred, energetic nature. And it is extremely important, especially when we look at society and we look at the, gender roles. And of course, I mean, you can have male-male couples, female-female couples, however that relates to your situation. I'm not somebody that is, judgmental in any way about relationship dynamics. It's more of an energy exchange. So when we look at these interactions and we look at the energetic exchange, we start to pinpoint what is truly deep and authentic and what is highly superficial and leaves us feeling empty. And we start to hold a responsibility towards that other aspect of the mind, body, spirit that is interacting with the self, with ourself and other selves. And we drop into this consciousness where we understand that each and every exchange is either heightening our energy, so empowering us, giving us vital life force energy, or it is decreasing us on an energetic plane. And we also start to realize that the more superficial, the less that the interaction is based in divine energy or that sacred energy, the more depleting it is. Because again, it is when we think of it and we start to really only, or when we are operating from only physicality and it's only a body and no extra layers of depth, so no sharing of that energetic soul energy, no sharing of that emotional energy, that heart chakra energy, basically we're going to be imbalanced and we're going to be depleted from that interaction. So a more maybe layman way of explaining it is when we are interacting sexually, again, which is just an energy exchange with other beings, and it's only from a physical level. And again, there's no other energetic activations. It's unbalanced, and therefore it's going to throw our whole system off, and it's not in line with that exchange of divine energy. And as we realize this, we start to really value our energy, understand our energy body, and realize that energy exchange at all levels, but of course one of the most sacred energy exchange is that between a couple relationship or two bodies, and it becomes something that is highly prized to the self and isn't given away without the full spectrum of energetic matching with the other. And therefore, again, it tends to, as we evolve in our spiritual journey, it tends to be something that we aren't going to share with many individuals. And this is a good thing. This is highly in accordance with many of the esoteric teachings in terms of divine love, unconditional love, and sharing of the energy body. And it's also very healing for the emotional body, the mental aspects, because it is actually in balance with the way that things should be. But it takes time. And so the learning aspect of it, it's not a negative. It's not something to feel guilty about or beat yourself up about. In this video, I want to talk about when you feel attacked or when somebody is, not being particularly kind to you, the best way to emotionally and mentally process this, okay? And this kind of goes back to the teaching, love your enemies. And, it's taken me many years to understand the premise of that statement and why it is so healing for my own journey. Now, obviously, I've dealt with my own share or, a good number of I don't want to say attacks, but negative energy over the years. And what I've come to realize about it is that anytime anybody has negative energy towards another, it's really more, well, it's almost always about themselves. Now, there are times certainly when individuals will frustrate me, but it's certainly very short-lived, and I always move into a place of compassion as quickly and effortlessly as I can nowadays. And again, I find that energy of compassion very peaceful and healing for me, and just a much more empowering way to look at each and every situation. Doesn't mean I don't stand up for myself, because again, I do. I'm a businesswoman. I'm definitely have to deal with conflict all of the time. It's modern day business 101, dealing with the general public. There are going to be conflicts, and when I'm dealing with those conflicts, I'm still very progressive in my approach. I'm also, somewhat detached. There's the sweetie toy again. Anyways, I'm also somewhat detached in the sense of, I know what the correct outcome is in terms of our procedures and policies. I don't get emotionally involved, so I take a much more masculine approach to the logic of problem solving. And I've learned that over the years as well as a very helpful tool. But specifically, in terms of when you feel attacked, one of the most impactful ways that I've been able to energetically deal with that type of energy is to essentially have this inner mantra or inner prayer that just requests that whatever energy that person is coming from, or whatever vibration or mental state, that the universe will eloquently mirror it back to them, so that they can understand the ramifications of operating in that way. Because again, everything here is learning, and it's not that I ever wish anything negative on anyone. Are you gonna come up? Okay. Here we go. Here's the little culprit of the squeaker toys. So what I'm really trying to explain with this is that in my younger state, I would get, really frustrated when somebody would bring me this negative, nasty energy. And, in my teenage years or whatever, I'd hope something bad would happen to them, or that they would somehow have this karma enacted on them. And I never, at this stage of the game, I never wish anything negative on anybody. It doesn't matter, how intense the attack might be. I simply ask the universe to lovingly mirror back that energy to that individual, so they can see the error of their ways, and they can understand what bringing forth that energy feels like. And to me, this is a very compassionate way to still love those that feel like they are doing me wrong. And so I just wanted to share that piece of my own journey. Again, it's all about creating this equilibrium of an internal state of peace. And again, the bitterness and the anger that humans have the capacity to carry around with them is some of the most damaging energy. And even on a chemical level, that stress and that baggage wreaks havoc on the mind, the body, and the spirit. So the sooner that you can learn the art of completely falling into unconditional love for every human being, the closer you are to that peaceful energy. And you just have, again, it's just I almost call it like the void. I just have this untethered, beautiful expanse of energy that has culminated in my being, that again, it can't really be disturbed because it's not tethered to anything. And it's taken me a long time to get to this place. I certainly, even 5-10 years ago was not capable of emotionally holding this kind of balanced equilibrium within my consciousness. I wouldn't have even known how to put A, B, C, and D together to get to that place. And so practice makes perfect. It's really going over within one's own consciousness this deep desire to embody unconditional love. And it's about self-love, but it's also about this universal loving energy. And again, it's very energizing, because when you're not utilizing your mental energy to focus on the past or the future or anything negative about any external factors, you really garner a lot of excess reservoir for beautiful, creative, productive, action-oriented energy. And I think this is, the fundamental point of, why I'm talking about this. Again, I'm going to try to make a lot of these videos a little bit shorter because it works for me in my schedule. And I think, in these modern times, it's a little bit easier to watch like a 7-minute video. So I'm going to get back to work here and wishing you all a very wonderful Friday.